Based on the 1991 novel by Bret Easton Ellis, the 2000s film American Psycho, directed by Mary Harron, who also co-wrote its screenplay with Guinevere Turner, has been followed by controversy and has left audiences confused by its ending since its release. According to Leela Shapiro, in a Vulture article titled, "You Can't Say American Psycho Didn't Warn Us," American Psycho, quote, at the time of its release, polarized critics, earning a few positive reviews, but also wide condemnation. Furthermore, in a 2020 interview also conducted by Leela Shapiro with director Mary Harron, Harron discusses how the film, quote, wasn't a huge success, but it wasn't a failure. And that, quote, at the time, even people who liked it wouldn't have considered it an important film. However, in recent years, quote, the culture has finally caught up. While I'm not here to answer why it has taken over 2 decades for this film to be considered culturally significant, to which Shapiro would answer in her article that its cultural relevance is due to the rise of Trump's statue over the years and capitalists of the like, I will explain how. So what makes American Psycho culturally significant, and not just a horror film, excess in misogyny, materialism, and violence? The story follows 27-year-old Patrick Bateman, played by Christian Bale, who is an investment banker by day and a serial killer by night. By day, Bateman can be found either in his upscale minimalist apartment, at a business meeting, in his office, or dining at a fancy restaurant. Through these scenes that alternate between his nightly murderous rampages and his day-to-day life, it is clear that Bateman is unable to seek fulfillment in his life. He's constantly chasing something, whether that be to have the best business card or a reservation at the exclusive restaurant Dorsia, which is why he targets Paul Allen, his colleague, who is played by Jared Leto, whose business card outshines Bateman's in the infamous business card scene, and who is, unlike Bateman, able to secure reservations at Dorsia on a Friday night. Paul Allen's murder is the only premeditated murder initiated by Bateman, as the rest of the murders he commits occur more randomly as if part of his nightly routine. The victims of these sporadic murders are women that he encounters on the street, in a club, or through a prostitution service. As the film continues to intensify to mirror Bateman's growing urges to kill, culminating with a confession Bateman makes to his lawyer, who in turn laughs at his confession, dismissing it as fiction, viewers are left with a seemingly ambiguous ending. However, if we dig deeper into the themes routinely presented throughout the film, the ending is much more clear. We can analyze these themes through a theoretical lens brought to us by French philosopher Louis Althusser in his essay Ideology and Ideological State Apparatuses. Althusser asserts that ideologies wrapped up in apparatuses produce subjects, which are people who live by that ideology through interpolation. The same ideology can exist across multiple ideological state apparatuses or ISAs, which Althusser identifies to include the religious, educational, family, legal, political, trade union, communications, and cultural ISA. And when it comes to American Psycho, we can consider the corporate office as an ISA. The ideology present in American Psycho is conservatism, which exists in an intensified form both fiscally and socially when we recognize the film's historical context. The film is set in 1989 towards the end of Ronald Reagan's second term. Ronald Reagan's administration brought a new level of conservatism to America in the 80s. He is marked by his neoliberal economic policies favoring the deregulation of businesses, lower taxes, and defunding social programs, justified by trickle-down economics, which in practice widened wealth gaps. His administration has also been coined for neglecting the AIDS crisis, which only fueled the homophobic rhetoric of this era that placed the blame of this crisis on gay men. Of course, this culture did not shy away from upholding racist and misogynistic ideals as well. Thus, this intensified conservatism wrapped up in the ISAs, including the government and corporate office, produced the materialistic and well-off yuppie subject, which stands for young urban professional. Patrick Bateman's character is thus a warning of this yuppie subject and its parent that is conservatism, which we can recognize through the way Althusser's subject formation plays out in the film. This is especially visible when Bateman is with his yuppie colleagues either at a business meeting or at a fine dining reservation. They reinforce each other by discussing and comparing the materialistic and superficial markers of their status, including where they have a dinner reservation, their place in their investment firm's hierarchy, their business cards, and the brand of their suits. The critique of the yuppie subject is further emphasized through the way the film depicts the cost of becoming one, which is to become so enthralled in oneself and one's material assets that they lose sight of the real tangible things in life and lose their care for others. This critique on its extreme end is made through the depiction of Patrick Bateman, who values materialism and appearances over people's lives. And through this depiction of Patrick Bateman, huge corporations are also criticized as they prioritize profit over the fair treatment of their workers and engaging in environmentally friendly practices, making murder a fill-in for capitalist greed. On the less extreme end of the yuppie critique that the viewers who misinterpret the film's ending need to recognize is that almost every yuppie that is in Bateman's life is just as self-absorbed and obsessed as Bateman, that they cannot even remember simple facts about each other, let alone each other's names. Furthermore, they are so oblivious that they never bat an eye at the sadistic comments Bateman makes throughout the film. So when we look back at the ending, when Bateman's lawyer outright ignores his confession in which he explicitly states that he killed Paul Allen, whose disappearance has been under investigation, we know the murders weren't just a dream. The yuppie culture of the 80s just couldn't care less.